Hello Internet, and welcome to Awkward Reviews, the only show guaranteed to cure cancer, maybe, possibly, actually not really, I lied about that part. I'm Awkward Gary, and today we're here to talk about that piece of garbage Sonic game that came out in 2000... Wait, we're not here to talk about that one? No? Oh, right, I'm sorry. We're here to talk about Sonic Boom, the other garbage Sonic game that came out. Sonic Boom, The Rise of Lyric, came out for the Nintendo Wii U a couple months ago, and I know I promised that I would review it, but things happened, but I'm here to talk about it now, so let's dive right on in. Sonic Boom is a two-player co-op game featuring Sonic, Tails, Amy, and Knuckles, and if you're playing the 3DS version, you get to play as Sticks, but we're not talking about that version. We're talking about the one that came out on the Nintendo Wii U. This game is sort of a reboot for the Sonic series, because we all know how many times that's happened in the past couple years, you know. It features a drastic new gameplay style that a lot of people are not happy about. It plays like a combination of Jak and Daxter and God of War. It's a beat 'em up style game, and honestly it's not as fun as the Werehog stages in Sonic Unleashed. We all remember that piece of mess. But all in all, it's a good game. It's just not a good Sonic game. I'm gonna start off by breaking it down into a couple different parts. Right now first off, I'm gonna talk about the gameplay. The gameplay, it's not fast. I mean, there's these little Mach speed sections, which we all know how well that works. You know, we all saw that in Sonic the Hedgehog 2006, and they were too fast, you know? You could hardly control Sonic. This time, however, they changed it to where you're running along a very straight, narrow path. It's kind of like the daytime stages in Sonic Unleashed, except there's really no chance for you to mess up unless you time a button press to get onto a rail. The rail system that they have going on in this one is not like the ones that they've had through Sonic Adventure 2 on up through Sonic Lost World. This time, rather than grinding on the rails, you get these electric tethers that you use, which is actually a huge part of the game. In the beginning of the game, Sonic and his friends get trapped, and Tails uses a mechanism that had trapped them to make these electro bracelets that they use to grab hold of things and activate switches and stuff. And don't get me wrong, it's a pretty interesting gameplay mechanic, but they use it way too often, and it really, how do I put it? It breaks up the flow of the stages, you know? There are 4 different playstyles, even though they pretty much all play the same. You got Sonic. He's, personally, I think he's the best fighter of the group, which is ironic, I know, because that's supposed to be like Knuckles' thing. He's supposed to be like, oh, I'm gonna punch everything, and it's gonna be awesome. And, no. Tails, he does not have his flying ability. Instead, he has a gliding ability, which, I know what you're thinking, that's supposed to be Knuckles' thing. But no, they took that away from Knuckles and handed it to Tails, which is, honestly, it's not right. Knuckles, he's the big, muscly guy. His main thing is he can climb up these specific walls that have these red crystals on them, and that is literally the only thing that he can climb up. I do like the fact, however, that they changed it to where it's not just he's going up the wall and to the sides, but he can now climb on the ceilings as well, which I think that's pretty cool. And now Amy, she's doing what she's always done, and swinging around her hammer. She's not the best fighter of the group, and when you're forced to play as her in some portions, it can be a real pain, and I often find myself switching over to Knuckles. whenever I get paired up with them. That's right. Whenever, or some portions in the game, the characters get separated, and so you get paired with like Knuckles and Amy, or Sonic and Tails, or Sonic and Amy, or Tails and Knuckles, and pretty much any combination you can think of. But they pretty much all play the same, aside from a few minor differences, but sometimes those minor differences make all the matter in this game. Now to move on to the story. The story is rather lackluster. Of course, then again, this is a Sonic game. They don't really have too much of a story going for them anyway. The last Sonic game I could think of that actually had a good story was Sonic 06. And that's saying something, you know. Basically, Sonic and his pals, you start off the game, they're chasing down Dr. Eggman, as they always are, and, well, from there it just goes downhill. Sonic, being the brainiac that he is, and I use that with heavy sarcasm, he decides that he's going to open up a chamber which appears to be made by a lost civilization. It turns out this hidden chamber is actually a prison for Lyric, the big bad guy of the series. Now, I'm going to talk about Lyric for a second. Lyric is, honestly, I kind of wish that they had done more with him. He had so much potential to be such a good bad guy, and they just wasted it. Heavy spoilers here for those of you who still feel like playing the game after this, which I highly urge you not to. What Lyric does is he creates these robots who are being powered by these crystals, which he spent his whole life working on, and turns out the crystals were making him sick, so he had to build himself a suit of armor in order to keep himself alive. And along with this armor, he gave himself robotic limbs and whatnot. Anyway, the reason that he's building these robots is that he wasn't working on the crystals of his own will. He was actually working on them for a group of people called the Ancients. At least that's what I remember them being called. I could have them confused with something else. Anyway, these Ancients asked Lyric to work on turning these crystals into a power source for them to use. And that didn't exactly turn out so well for him. He did, however, succeed in turning these crystals into a power source. But, as I told you before, he created an army of robots, and for some reason he blames these Ancients for causing him to become sick and having to wear this armor that he created for himself. And so he's going to take all these robots and eliminate the Ancients and take over the world for himself, turning all life forms into robots. Which I know that sounds a lot like Dr. Eggman's early years, but to each their own, or to copy another. Now, Shadow the Hedgehog does show up in this story for a little bit. And by a little bit, I mean, like, twice. The first time, he just shows up out of nowhere, and basically it's like, "Oh, Sonic, you rely on your friends too much, and blah 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 blah, so I'm going to kill you for no good reason." And so he proceeds to attack Sonic for pretty much no reason whatsoever. Which, I mean, seriously, Big Red Button, get your shit together. Ice Shadow deserves more than that. He's already had I haven't seen him in a long time, and you're going to him into this and do this to him? I mean, come on. And second time that he shows up, he gets put under mind control by Lyric, and he proceeds to attack Sonic and his friends again, but ends up being able to overcome the mind control and ends up stopping Lyric himself. The next thing I want to talk about is the level design. The level design isn't really all that bad. I mean, they take each character's strengths into proportion, and it makes it so that way you can choose which character you want to play as when the group splits into two, you know. And if you have a friend who's playing along with you, you know, they don't have to wait for you to go and press a button or something, or you don't have to wait for them to figure out how to spin dash up a wall. Okay, granted, there are some sections like that, like one portion of the game where you have to make Tails gets trapped inside this cylinder thing, and Sonic has to run around pressing buttons to make sure that Tails does not get crushed. Even though there's really no point to that, considering that if you die in this game, you jump right back into the action with no repercussions, no game overs, no lives. There may as well not even be a health bar. Oh yeah, did I mention there's a health bar in this game? Yes, there is a health bar, and it is refilled by gathering rings. Honestly, the ring system is not that important in this game, you know. And it's not like you gather a whole bunch of rings just to get hit once and do that. No, it's I don't know. It's just weird, you know. It's not Sonic. Like, this game does not feel like a Sonic game. On to the main hub world. The main hub world it looks like it's a canyon of sorts, and you have these various crystals that you get from completing each stage, and each crystal opens a different door. And there's all sorts of little side quests you can do. And then after you complete each quest, you gain a certain amount of crystals, which you can use to liven up the place. Because when you first go in there, it's not very flushed out. It's very barren, and it just doesn't fly with me. Although I am glad that they finally took the initiative to make an open world Sonic game. You know, that's something that fans have been asking for quite a while. Sorry about that. But in making an open world Sonic game, they kind of messed up a little bit. Because right after you get out of the tutorial stage, you suddenly get a little blip that says, "Go see Cliff." Nowhere in any of the cutscenes or during any of the talkings that the characters do they mention anyone named Cliff. So I go forward, and there's a little house there to the left, and I figure, oh, okay, well, this must be that Cliff guy. No. If you talk to any of the other NPCs before going and talking to Cliff, they'll simply say, "Oh, you can't talk to me right now. Try talking back to me in a little while. Maybe after you've gathered a few crystals." And it's not good design, in my opinion. I mean, I know it sounds kind of contradictory, but, you know, if you're gonna make an open world game, gotta give them some point of direction to go. I mean, you can't just say, "Go find Cliff," not giving me a picture of the guy or anything. You're just leaving me there to wander around and expect me to know where this Cliff guy is. In fact, before you find Cliff, they start talking about the Ancients before they even know who the Ancients are. This game is so broken. It's not even funny. You know, I'd much rather go play Sonic 06 or even worse, Sonic Unleashed before I play this game again. Now, back onto my last complaint is the music. This little loop that you've been hearing go behind my voice, I'll be quiet for a minute so that way you can hear it. Yeah, that's the music from the first level. And to be honest, it's not very memorable, you know? I mean, we all can remember the first stages of pretty much every Sonic game, you know? I mean, you got Sonic Lost Worlds, Windy Valley, and that had some pretty kick-ass music to go along with it. We all remember Sonic Generations, of course, which had the same opening music for Green Hill Zone, which is the first Sonic game. We all remember Emerald Hill, you know, and of course we all remember City Escape, you know. But there's music like this in every single stage. It's very boring, and I actually found myself falling asleep during one of the stages simply because I couldn't figure out one of the puzzles, and it was like 3 a.m. and I conked out listening to this music. I woke up, the music was still playing, and it didn't change at all. It's terrible. And there's no time limit to these stages. Nothing. It's just... I know it sounds like I'm rambling a little bit, guys, but hang in there. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is the characters' new personalities. Yes, you heard me. They gave these characters new personalities. Which, I mean, I don't mind Tails being the way he is. I mean, he's not exactly the little whiner that we all know and love, but he's cocky in this game, you know. I like it. It's nice. It's a nice change of pace. Knuckles, which is my least favorite of the bunch, they decided that they were going to take Knuckles and dumb him down even more, to the point where during the opening sequence, when Sonic tells Amy and Knuckles to go left, Knuckles has to hold up his hands like so and see where the L is, and that's how he knows which direction is left. I mean, seriously. You ruined Knuckles for me. I mean, what happened to the Knuckles that was, you know, he was smart, he was constantly setting up tricks for Sonic, making him fall through pitfalls and whatnot. It's not right. But then, let me talk about Amy for a second. We all know Amy. She's annoying. She's constantly running around, chasing after Sonic, and, well, this is not the Amy we all know and hate. She's turned into rather quite serious. You know, I'm just not sure how I feel about it, because I've always hated her character, simply because she's always been annoying and loudmouthed. Whereas here, she's like, no, Sonic, don't do that. I can handle this. You know, she's strong-willed, and you know, actually kind of like her new personality, and I wish that they'd done this sooner. Just not in this game, not in this universe. You know? But that's the thing. It's only in this universe where she's like that. In the TV show, she's still annoying Amy. She's still all silly and all that, you know? And it's really jarring for some of these kids who get the game expecting it to be like the TV show. The TV show, I'll save that for another review, is fantastic. And the game is just dragging it down a whole lot, you know? All in all, Sonic Boom gets a 2 out of 10. Don't play this game. If you're a hardcore Sonic fan and you feel like you absolutely must, just out of obligation, by all means, go ahead, but you've been warned. This is Awkward Gary, and I will see you all later after I wipe my brain of this catastrophe.